Hey coaches, it is Pam here. How are you doing? I hope that you are having an amazing week and an amazing Tuesday. And I ran across some training I had done previously on our money mindset, our mindset towards money, and some teaching that I did about the law of compensation. And I just was reminded of how valuable this is, and so I wanted to hop in today and share these principles with you. You've heard me say before that the universe doesn't respond to need, the universe responds to seed. And I kind of want to take that a step further today by talking about this idea of the law of compensation. The universe runs by laws, and those laws are as predictable as the law of gravity. If you drop a stone, it's gonna fall to the ground. And there's the law of compensation is the same way. It is predictable, it's reliable, and it works consistently. And so what is the law of compensation? If we really are at a place where we're saying, I want to increase my compensation, how do we do that? Well, here's the principle, that the law of compensation is this, that the better we serve and the more skilled we become, the greater the demand and the greater the reward. Let me say that again, that the better we serve and the more skilled we become, the greater the demand and the greater the reward. So that then begs the question, well, how do I serve better and how do I become more skilled? So let's talk about those two things, all right? So let's talk about serving better. How do we serve better? Well, I believe in the principle of always over-delivering, like always delivering more value than what you're paid for. Wallace Wattles in The Science of Getting Rich talks about this as a basic principle of always, the way he put it is always deliver more value than the cash received. So always deliver more value. Now, what does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean that we give our stuff away for free, although we give a lot of, I believe that one of the ways to prime the pump on that, one of the ways to do that, to always over deliver, is to deliver value to begin with. Don't expect, again, the universe responds to seed, not need. And one of the ways we plant seeds is by delivering value like this, delivering value to your community that folks aren't paying you for, right? So I think that's one way. I think another way is, it doesn't mean that we undersell our services, but it means that we always look to surprise and delight. We're always looking to ask ourselves the question, what can I do so that it surprises and delights people? One of the ways I like to do this is just by sending people things. People who sign up for my elite program with me, get something in the mail, get a special surprise in the mail for me. That's not something that is part of the overall package, but something that surprises and delight. When I used to work with Mary Morrissey, it was like when we did live trainings, every time someone, the trainees came back into the room, there was something else sitting at their place, a mug, a journal, something special. So one of the ways to over-deliver is to ask yourself, how can I surprise and delight my clients? It may be a bonus class. It may be, it may be a bonus live event. I don't know what it is, but ask yourself, how can I surprise and delight? How can I send them a book, this month, right? How can I surprise and delight? Another way is just by, being willing, let's say as a coaching client, they have 12 sessions with you, but they're in between sessions and they're needing some extra time and you give it. It's just being generous, right? And when we're generous, I promise you it comes back 100-fold. In our generosity, it comes back 100-fold. So the first is to surprise and delight, right? To over deliver. And the second is to do, how do we serve better? Is to do everything successfully. Do everything successfully. It means that we do everything with quality in mind. So, I love this story of Bob Proctor, when he did one of his first live events, and he he rented a room. I think it was for, if I remember correctly, for like 3,000 people. It was like for a lot of people. And his plan was to fill that room, and he had every intention of filling that room. And it wasn't something where people signed up ahead of time. He just put flyers all over the place and advertised it all over the place, and he expected 3,000 people to be in that room. He walks out and there's 6. And as he describes, you know, those 6 people weren't even sitting together, right? But what did he do? You know, a professional is a professional all the time. And so he delivered his speech as if that room was filled with 3,000 people. You know why? Because those 6 people deserved it. And because that's the person he wanted to be. We do everything successfully. So how do we serve better? One, we over-deliver. We deliver more value than we're paid. And secondly, we do everything successfully. Everything from a name tag at an event. You know, spend the extra few dollars to get a good quality name tag rather than something, you know, someone writes their name on and slaps on, you know, their shirt. You know, spend the money to take stuff to a good printer to have printed off rather than printing something off at home. You know, do everything successfully, do everything world class. You know, imagine what difference does that make in your business right now? If you say, you know what, I'm not going to just because there's only 3 people showing up, or because there's only a few people in this course, or because whatever, you know, I'm just going to do this. No, what does it mean to be successful every time? To do everything successfully, everything at a professional and world-class level. Okay, so those are 2 suggestions about how to serve better. So now I want to talk about how do we become more skilled, right? So here's the law of compensation again, is that the better we serve and the more skilled we become, the greater the demand and the greater the reward. So how do we, I've just talked about 2 ideas about how do we increase our serving, how do we serve better? Now, how do we become more skilled? How do we become more skilled? Well, the first thing that I would say is that, I love this from Robin Sharma. Talks about this idea of every single day diligently practicing and honing our craft. Diligently practicing and honing our craft. You know, here's the thing. Coaches coach, speakers speak, teachers teach. Regardless of if you have a coaching client that day, regardless of if you have a speaking engagement that day, regardless of if you have a class to teach that day, teachers teach, speakers speak, coaches coach. So I would ask yourself, and I ask myself this, how can I be a teacher today? How can I be a speaker today? How can I be a coach today? And maybe it's writing a post, maybe it's practicing. Sometimes I just walk around my living room and I speak, you know, I practice speaking. Sometimes it's getting in front of a video. Sometimes it's, you know, it's writing a blog post. Sometimes it's writing a Facebook post. Sometimes it's asking yourself, how can I be a coach today? How can I be a teacher today? How can I be a speaker today? Because that's who we are. And so we have to every single day, daily practice and hone our craft. What does that look like for you? How can you practice your coaching today? How can you practice your teaching today? You know, part of it for me too is also just spending time in my journal, writing ideas and crafting out what does the teaching of that look like. You know, some of you know I love the hook, book, look, took framework for teaching. I'll ask myself, okay, if I took this idea, just this little idea, and I turned it into, and I actually framed it as hook, book, look, took, what would that look like and how could I teach that? And then eventually that becomes something that I get to teach, right? Teachers teach, speakers speak, coaches coach. Daily practice and hone your craft, right? So then the second way that I would say that we become more skilled is by investing in ourselves. And investing in ourselves. It's how we grow. It's the most important investment we'll ever make is in our own growth and development. So I'd ask yourself, first of all, there's different ways to invest in yourself. But one is just monetarily. You know, do you have a mentor or a coach that you can go to and learn from, right? So this is one of the ways we invest in ourselves and get better. Is having someone who can help us cut the learning curve, right? Who can help us shortcut to the results that we're looking for, get there easier and faster. That's what a mentor is about, is removing roadblocks so that you can hit your desired result more quickly, more easily, in a more long-lasting way. Who's your mentor? Who's your coach? Where are you investing in your own growth? Being a part of a mastermind, being part of peer partners who become your thinking partners, your acting partners, your partners in believing, who are your cheerleaders, your role models, your mirrors to you, right? Where are you surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded, all rowing in the same direction? Mastermind, peer partners, right? Another way is to invest in, just growing your skills as a person who's building a business, right? So your marketing skills, where are you learning that? Where are you investing in that? If you want to be a, international speaker, where are you training as a speaker? If you want to build your business online and have a global impact, where are you doing that? Where are you investing your money, time, energy in order to learn and develop your skills in that way? And one of the most important skills that we can develop is as a messenger. I believe first and foremost, we are messengers, right? Where are you developing your skills as a messenger? How are you investing in that? There's some other ways that we invest. We invest by study, right? Spending time in the study of whether it's, as a coach or studying, studying marketing or studying being a speaker or studying, different books that inspire us, spending time studying. This is another way that we build our skills. Another way that we build our skills is just plain old practice. I talked about it before, this idea of speakers speak, teachers teach, and coaches coach. Where are you practicing, right? And it's not just that. It's also, where am I practicing being a messenger? Where am I practicing as a marketer, right? Where am I practicing my skills as a business leader, my leadership skills, right? How am I practicing every day? It's another way that we get better at our skills. So we invest, we study, we train, and we practice. Invest, study, train, and practice. So I'd invite you to ask yourself, number one, how am I daily practicing and honing my craft? And then where am I investing in myself to grow my skills? Am I investing, training, studying, and practicing my skills every single day so that I can get better at them? So here's my challenge to you today. My invitation is to really take a look at this for yourself and say, number one, how can I over-deliver, deliver more value than I've been paid? And where can I look at doing everything successfully? Where can I up my game when it comes to the way in which I'm doing things and the quality of work I'm doing? So that's how we serve better. The second is asking yourself, how do I become more skilled? We talked about these two ways, daily practicing and honing your craft, and then investing in yourself, your time, energy, money, into becoming a better speaker, a better coach, a better marketer, a better messenger, and practicing that. I'm going to invite you to share in the comments and say, what's one thing that you want to do today, that you will do today to serve better or to become more skilled? And when you do that, again, the law of compensation, that the better we serve and the more skilled we become, the greater the demand. Hopefully that call didn't just mess us up. So again, it's looking at, I'm just going to say it one more time. The better we serve, the more skilled we become, the greater the demand and the greater the reward. That is the law of compensation. That is the secret to increasing your income and your impact in the world. That is the secret behind everything we do. Doesn't mean that we don't learn skills and all of that along the way, but that is the secret. I would invite you to ask yourself and then share in the comments, what's one way I can serve better, and what's one way that I can increase and improve my skills. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me. I look forward to checking in with you later in the week. And until next time, guys, keep shining. I'll see you again soon.